The Galactic Council had existed for 12,000 years. 17 species sat upon its grand chamber, each one ancient beyond human understanding. They had mapped every corner of the known universe. They had cataloged every intelligent species. They had fought wars that lasted centuries and signed peace treaties that lasted. They believed they understood the cosmos completely. They were wrong. Admiral Way stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus, the flagship of Earth's newly formed. Behind her vessel stretched a formation of 300 ships, each one carrying the hopes and fears of a species that had only discovered faster-than-light travel 60 years ago. The humans had worked in secret. They had built in silence. And now, they had arrived at the doorstep of galactic civilization without any warning. The ambassador was the first to receive the transmission. His name was, and he had served on the council for 800 years. In all that time, he had never felt true surprise. His species had evolved beyond such primitive emotions millions of years ago. Yet when the human fleet appeared on his sensors, something cold moved through his ancient heart. "This is Admiral Way of the United Earth," the message began. "We come in peace. We request formal contact with the Galactic Council." 4 eyes blinked in confusion. Humans. The small creatures from the isolated world in the outer spiral arm. The ones the Council had decided were too young, too violent, too unpredictable to contact. They had developed interstellar travel without any assistance from the greater galactic community. The Council had specifically chosen to leave humanity alone. They had observed Earth for centuries and concluded that humans were dangerous, not because they were strong or intelligent, but because they refused to accept limits. Every other species in the galaxy had reached a natural ceiling in their development. They found comfort in stability. Humans, the observers noted, found comfort in nothing. They were always reaching, always climbing, always refusing to stay where they belonged. Now those same humans had 300 warships floating in Council space. The emergency session was called within the hour. Representatives from all 17 species gathered in the Great Chamber, their holographic forms flickering with anxiety. The delegation, a species of crystalline beings who communicated through light pulses, flashed rapidly in what could only be described as panic. The massive creatures who had conquered half the galaxy before finding peace clicked their mandibles nervously. "How is this possible?" demanded High Chancellor of the Hegemony. His serpentine body coiled around his speaking platform. "Our observation stations reported that humans were still using chemical propulsion systems. They should be centuries away from reaching us." "The humans have always been difficult to predict," replied quietly. "Perhaps that was our first mistake. We assumed they would follow the same path as every other species." The Council records were pulled up and examined. Earth had been discovered 4,000 years ago by a survey ship. At the time, humans had been living in primitive agricultural societies. The Council had marked them for future contact, estimating it would take them approximately 15,000 years to develop space travel based on the standard progression models used for all other species. Humans had achieved it in 4,000. The observation reports painted a disturbing picture. Humans had created weapons capable of destroying their entire planet before they had even left their atmosphere. They had fought 2 global wars within a single century. They had polluted their world, driven countless species to extinction, and built machines that could think faster than organic minds. Any other species would have destroyed themselves long before reaching the stars. But humans had survived, more than survived, they had thrived. "We made a critical error," admitted the representative through translated light pulses. "We assumed that self-destructive behavior would lead to extinction. We did not account for the possibility that a species could be both self-destructive and adaptive." Admiral Way waited patiently for a response. Her crew watched the sensors with careful eyes. They had prepared for this moment for decades. The older officers remembered the day when the first observation probe had been captured and reverse-engineered. They remembered the shock of learning that humanity was not alone and that the galaxy had deliberately chosen to ignore them. That knowledge had changed everything. Governments had united. Resources had been pooled. The greatest scientific minds of Earth had worked together with a single purpose. If the galaxy did not want humanity, then humanity would make the galaxy want them. The ships surrounding the Prometheus were not weapons of war. They were demonstrations of capability. Each vessel carried technologies that the humans had developed independently, technologies that in some cases surpassed what the ancient council species possessed. The humans had not come to fight. They had come to make a point. Finally, the council responded. "Human vessel," Chancellor's voice echoed through the communication channel. "You have entered restricted space without authorization. Explain your presence immediately." Admiral smiled. It was not a threatening smile, but it was not friendly either. It was the smile of someone who had been underestimated their entire life. "Honored Chancellor," she replied, 60 years ago, we captured one of your observation drones. We learned that your council had been watching us for. We learned that you considered us too dangerous to contact. We learned that you planned to keep us isolated until you decided we were ready." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We decided we were ready." The silence that followed was heavier than the void of space itself. "You should understand something about humans," continued. "We do not wait for permission. We do not accept limits imposed by others. When someone tells us we cannot do something, we find a way to do it anyway. Your council looked at us and saw chaos. You saw violence and destruction. You saw a species that should have killed itself long ago." She turned to face the main, where the distant lights of Council Station flickered like nervous stars. "What you failed to see was our determination. Every war we fought taught us something. Every mistake we made showed us what not to do. Every time we fell, we got back up stronger than before. You have 12,000 years of peace. We have 12,000 years of struggle, and that struggle made us who we are." The representative spoke for the first time. His voice was deep, ancient, and filled with something that might have been respect. "You speak of struggle as if it is a virtue. My species conquered half the galaxy through war. We know the cost of conflict better than any other. It is not something to be proud of." "We are not proud of the wars we fought," answered. "We are proud that we survived them. We are proud that we learned from them. We are proud that despite everything, we never gave up on ourselves." The council members exchanged uncertain glances. This was not how first contact was supposed to proceed. New species were supposed to be humble, grateful, eager to learn from their elders. Humans were none of these things. "What do you want?" asked finally. Admiral stood. "We want a seat on your council. We want to be recognized as equals. We want the same rights and responsibilities as every other member species. And most importantly, we want you to understand that we are not going away. You can accept us as partners or you can try to stop us. But know this, others have tried to stop humanity before. They all failed." The vote took 3 days. During that time, the human fleet remained perfectly still, a silent reminder of what humanity had accomplished without any help from the galaxy's established powers. In the end, the Council voted in favor of acceptance, not because they wanted humans as allies, not because they believed humans had changed. They voted yes because, for the first time in 12,000 years, they faced something they had never encountered before. They faced a species that was not afraid of them. As the official documents were signed and the treaties were sealed, Old approached Admiral privately. His 4 eyes studied her with ancient curiosity. "I have lived for thousands of years," he said quietly. "I have seen empires rise and fall. I have witnessed the birth and death of stars, but I have never seen anything quite like your species." Nodded respectfully. "We are full of surprises." "That is what frightens me," admitted. "Every other species reaches a point where they become predictable. They settle into patterns. They stop growing. But you humans, you never seem to stop. Even now, standing at the threshold of galactic civilization, I can see in your eyes that this is not your final destination. You are already thinking about what comes next. The Admiral smiled. Of course we are. That is who we are. We look at the impossible and we ask ourselves how to make it possible. We look at the unthinkable and we think it anyway. Was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper. The Council kept you isolated because we believed you were dangerous. Now I understand we were right, but not in the way we thought. You are not dangerous because of your weapons or your aggression. You are dangerous because you make others question everything they thought they knew about the universe. Admiral placed a hand on the old ambassador's shoulder. It was a human gesture, one that did not fully understand, but somehow it felt appropriate. Perhaps that is exactly what the universe needs, she said. Something to shake it out of its comfortable routines. Something to remind it that there is always more to discover, more to achieve, more to become. The human fleet departed Council space 3 weeks later. Behind them, they left a galaxy forever changed. The old certainties were gone. The careful predictions lay in ruins. And for the first time in 12,000 years, the ancient species of the Council looked at the future with something they had long forgotten. Wonder, and perhaps just a little bit of fear. Because the humans had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again.